Hey guys, welcome to the channel. This is episode 3 of our Transport Fever 2 playthrough. I'm in the market. If you're new to the channel, feel free to go back and watch some of the old videos in the series. Check out the playlist. And if you like what you see, feel free to like, comment, subscribe if you're willing. And I'd love to get some feedback on how we're doing. So what we're looking at right now, if you remember from the last episode, is the oil line that we got up and running. We currently have the 2 trains operating on the oil line. We got the one in the tunnel and then the one coming out. And we have a couple goals for this playthrough. First and foremost is going to be going through some of our various lines that need updating with new vehicles and making sure that we get those updated, and that we also start setting our maintenance level on some of the vehicles that go into town at a higher level. And if you remember from what we talked about last time, a vehicle's emissions are entirely dependent on the maintenance level. So we're going to set the maintenance level on these fuel trucks, for instance, to high so that they never go below mediocre because they're going into town. Same thing with these buses. We're going to set these to high. But something like these crude trucks don't need to have a high maintenance level because they're just staying out here in the country. So it's never going to be a big deal if they have really high emissions. So we're going to just go through real quick and update all of these bus routes to have a high maintenance level. We'll update the ConMat, the construction materials line, to also have a high maintenance level because it's going through Market Bosworth. The Hornsey to Hayward line needs a high setting, and then I don't know if I already got this one. I already did, yes. And then the only last one that needs a high setting is going to be this food run, which actually needs all new vehicles. Upgrading those to the tarpaulin Benz trucks. Did I already upgrade? These need to be upgraded to the tarpaulin Benz trucks because the flatbed Benz trucks can't carry grain. I don't have enough money for that, so let's just let this run for a minute until we get enough. And there we go. So those are all now the Benz trucks, and this should really help this line out a lot. Getting those Benz trucks on there. What other lines? So if we go to our line manager, what other lines need Benz trucks? Looks like the construction materials line needs Benz trucks. I think that might be it. Yeah, so how much is it going to cost to get that construction materials line swapped out with Benz trucks? Quite a bit. Quite a bit. I also find it slightly annoying that these can carry oil sand, but not stone from the quarry. Like, I have to go with this one. And the difference is, you always want to go with a vehicle that has your resource that you're trying to move as a specific cargo type, because it generally has a higher capacity. 7 for the covered and 8 for the uncovered. So we'll just have to remember to come back here and change this out. I mean, we could actually just wait here a minute and I'm sure we'd get the money. But while we wait for that money to roll in, the main goals for today's episode is going to be to run a passenger line from this Chatham rail station up through Bradley Stoke and up to Bodmin. That's our goal for this episode. As well as I want to incorporate this oil well into this existing cargo line. And you're going to see how we're going to do that. But first off, we have the money now, so let's just go ahead and swap these out for Benz trucks. And make sure we get that high maintenance. And you can see now that we've gone with a higher maintenance level on the food, I think what that means is that we're going to be operating at a loss on this food line. That's okay, though. We can subsidize it with our other lines. All right, so the first thing we want to do is I'm going to hook up this crude into this line. So the way we're going to do that is I'm going to come into this platform and I'm going to edit it. I'm going to add tracks, followed by a cargo platform, and then we have to reorient these tracks to function with this layout. So we're going to pause the game, and I'll probably delete all the way back to here. So we're going to delete all of these tracks. I missed one. And we're going to go ahead and then connect this in. Like this. I'm not going to connect that up yet, and you'll see why in a minute. And now this line should still be functioning. So now we can unpause and let this line carry on. Trains are both running. Whenever you edit an existing set of tracks or a station, you want to just go back and check the trains that are on that rail line and make sure that they're still tracking where they're supposed to go. Sometimes what you can find is that when you edit a rail line that's already functioning, the trains can get a bit confused and they might just stop moving altogether because they just don't really know what you want them to do, if that makes sense. So now we're going to have a terminus train station right here, and I put in a passenger train station by accident. So we want a terminus cargo station, and then we're going to want a road connecting that up. So now it's in catchment of this oil well, this Bradley Stoke oil well. And now we're going to run a set of tracks down here. And we're going to bring the double track all the way back down. And tie it in. And now what we're going to do is we're going to edit this fuel. So after they go down to Chatham, they're going to come up here to Bradley Stoke and pick up whatever they've got. And then come back down to Northam. So this train, he got confused because now he's on the wrong side of the track. If you see, he was facing going up this left side, when now he needs to be facing he was just on the wrong side of the track. So I just turned him around. We'll get that signaled up manually just because it's not particularly far. And now you'll see that when these trains come back through, they're going to carry through this oil refinery station up to the oil well, pick up whatever crude they've got here, bring it back, and drop it off. And that should help keep this supplied better with crude oil that can then get refined into oil. And that should work quite nicely. So now if we come through, and we're going to want a pass-through on this station, and you'll see why in just a minute. And we're going to go ahead and build a station here. It's going to be 240 meters, and I think I built this as I built this as a wrong size station. This has to be a 240 meter station, so we need to add 2 platforms, I think. Yep, 240. And the reason that we had to do that is we needed the station to be as long as the others in the cargo line so that we can get our trains up to full size. And so now you're going to see this guy is coming back all the way from the... Actually, I just realized we need to add a stop after Chatham back at Northam. So that they can drop off the fuel first before they go back and get more crude. So they're gonna get the fuel from Chatham, bring it back, drop it off here for this platform, carry on down to this oil well, pick up crude oil, bring it back, drop it at the refinery, pick up refined oil, and go down. This is gonna be a much better line. Now, why did I add in this set of tracks? The reason that we added in this set of tracks, let's back it off a little bit. The reason that we're adding in this set of tracks is going to be for our passenger line. See, we're getting one tunnel, which is what we want. I don't know why this is being difficult. But essentially what we want is, one, we want a set of tracks that will run parallel to this set. For one reason, it cuts down on the landscaping cost by utilizing the same facilities as the other line. But also, we're going to go down here, and we're going to configure this, and we're going to add in just a little passenger station down here with a set of passenger facilities. And just for the fun of it, we'll dress it up a little bit with a little train stop, you know, covering and all that stuff. And I just realized I forgot to put the track in. So essentially what we're going to do is we're going to have a passenger station included in this facility. This guy just got confused. See, that's what happens when you edit a station with a train already in it. They tend to get confused. And this stuff that I'm adding right now, this awning and the pass-through underneath for the passengers is not necessary. It really isn't. I just think it looks nicer. So purely aesthetics. And now we're going to go ahead and signal that yes, we want auto signal. And that should kick a 400 meter auto signal down to this station. And that'll send it back. And now we're going to need one up here. So we're going to need a passenger station, 240 meters. And let's build out this road. out like that. And then I think this is a good cut through. That's a good block to get a train station. And we'll flip this around. We want 2 stations, 240 meters. And we'll go ahead and we'll build that right like that. And now we want to bring this inside track all the way up here. We'll just make sure that that got to where we wanted it. It did. And you can see that's going to cost $239,000. So we'll let that put itself in. And now we'll need a cross here to get this line started. So we need, there we go, 7,000. And now auto signal is on. Start there, it'll bring us right down to there. That's perfect. And now, running back to the, oh, see, this is the train that we sent back because he was confused. So he just wasted a whole run on the line, which is fine. It is what it is. But while we're at it, why don't we go ahead and add a couple more tank cars on here. Just to get them a bit higher capacity, carrying capacity. But now we can set up a line here, starting at the passenger station at Chatham and running all the way up here to Bradley Stoke. And we'll make this a dark red line. And we're going to run this all the way up to Bodmin. So I'm going to name this line Rail Chatham to Bodmin for now. It will probably continue on from that point, but for now, that's good. That's good for now. You can see these Benz trucks are moving fuel at a much higher rate than they otherwise were. Let's just make sure that this guy, yeah, he's doing good. All right, so this is a better example of what we're going to expect. So, and let's pause it real quick because I'm just going to edit these before this guy pulls into the station. Just to give him a bit higher capacity. So this guy's going to come up here, he's going to pick up crude oil. And he's going to bring it back and drop it here at this refinery. And just so that we're clear, so the first time that they leave Northam, they are only going to pick up oil. And then the second time, they're not going to pick up anything. Right? Because when they leave Northam en route to Chatham, they need oil. But when they come back through Northam, they don't want to load anything. They just want to come in, drop the fuel, and carry on. We could probably even start to think about getting another train on this line at some point. You can see that these engines are struggling. But anyway, so this bus route right here, this bus station, I'm going to move this station to right here, and then we're going to have a tram route running like that. And and we're going to put a tram depot right up in here, right behind these nice residential houses. I'm sure they will love me for that, so I'm not going to do it. I'm going to put it in right here. And we're going to go ahead through and upgrade this street with tram lines so that we can have a tram running this route. And then for this line right here, I'm going to delete this and I'm going to add it right here. And then I'm going to add a waypoint right here so it just does a bit cleaner of a loop. And the reason for that now is that they can switch with the tram line. And you can see this tram line's doing crazy things right now, but when I make it a tram, so this is going to be the tram Bradley tram to train. When I go ahead and buy some trams, maybe one more. You can see that it fixes itself. It puts itself just on the tram tracks. So now we've got public transportation within Bradley Stoke that's going to take people to this train. We've already got the train line established, which means we just need to buy the train itself. So we just need a little bit to accumulate first, and you can see we're starting to get a ton of crude stacking up on this line. So I'm going to go ahead and give them a bit more capacity. So now they're bringing crude back here, and hopefully this will start to get this to have a stable amount of crude. But as I keep adding cars to this train is now not capable of moving this amount of weight at any sort of speed. So we're going to have to think about replacing some of these trains sometime soon. Because what you're going to start to see, it's going to start making it very difficult. So if we went in here and we wanted to edit these and replace these with probably these BR75s. Although that doesn't really make sense to do the BR75 unless we're also going to swap out these cars, tank cars, for a better car, because this can go up to 56 miles an hour. Yeah. I don't know, this might be a bigger investment than I thought it might. Might require taking out a bit of a loan. How much would it cost to go BR75s? Yeah, look at that price. 18 million. Yikes. Yeah. Alright, with that being said, I'll probably just swap out the engines to start. So how much would it cost to get the BR75s on the line? 4 million? That's much more doable. And then at least they'll max out in speed very quickly. And then we can slowly replace the tank cars as we go. As they get more and more, demand. Man, these road networks are developing in a very interesting way. And it's going to mean that we're going to have to knock it down a lot of houses someday when we retrofit these with higher capacity bus routes. But anyway, So we've built up our line now for passengers. And we want to start to think about getting a passenger train on this line. I think priority number 1 is definitely to get these trains swapped out. So I might just go ahead and borrow a quick 2 million to at least get the BR-75s on these lines, so that at the very least they can start to max out their speed. Because you see this has 50 kilonewtons of force, this has 85. It's much better. Probably could have gone with the PLM for the same result, but this will be better because down the line we are going to replace these for the higher speed. The higher speed tank cars. So I'm okay with this for now. Now this guy should carry on through to go get some crude, and this will work. This will work quite nicely. So let's see how much it's going to be to get a passenger train on this run. So for passenger cars, we could go nice and cheap with like a G3 to start. It's probably a good idea. So if we went with the G3, that means we're capped at 31 miles per hour, so we'll go with these. And if we got 4, I think 4 is probably a good number. If we could get our budget to cooperate here for a minute. So if we get 4, the reason that I'm going with the G3 and just 4 of these cheap cars just to start is it's just to get the line going. And I can't find a path because I didn't connect tracks up. So if we bring this down here, we're going to have to cross over. Cross over for a sec, so I'm just going to need a little cash. And now we need some signals, one way, before and after, coming back before and after, and then before and after. And that should be good. And then we want to click on this and we want to make this a double switch. What that allows is our train depot can feed onto the outgoing track for the cargo line if we ever wanted to add another train, or it could feed onto the outgoing track for the passenger line. So now when we go back in here and we add the first train onto the line, he can now come down and cross over. You'll see him do it. He's going to come down, cross all the way over onto that line. And now we're going to let him make his turn and get maybe into the tunnel before we send this next train. If that makes sense. Just helping these trains spread out a little bit. And I know what you're thinking. We haven't set up a bus route up here to get these guys in. I just want to make sure we get this first train on the track real quick before we go up there and do that bus route. You can see this tram route, even with no train station really connected, is starting to move people just around the town, likely to get over to this bus stop. Alright, so that train now made it to the station. You see him down here. So we'll get ready to put this guy onto the track. Probably when he gets to about this signal is when I'm going to drop him onto the line. That way he's got enough spacing between the guy in front of him So we'll go ahead, we'll drop them on that line. And now if we go in here, you see 2 trains. And I just want to make sure that those both have a high maintenance. The maintenance for the trains. So that's an interesting one. That to me is just a personal preference of, I think it would make more sense for a passenger vehicle like a train to have a high maintenance level purely out of comfort to the passenger. It really makes no difference in the game. The game is not concerned about whether the passengers like the quality of your train. Like, they're just not. I just think that it's just more realistic that a train would have a higher capacity or a higher maintenance level. You know, it's a major capital investment for a company, and they're not going to want their prized, you know, train to not have a good level of, you know, capital expenditure, you know, to suffer in quality. So now we're gonna have a bus route running down this line. We just need a little bit more money to do so. I'm actually going to move that because it's going to be in the way of this road coming down here. I'll move that one to right there. And now we're going to need a new line from this bus depot. Doesn't like that. It's going to go there. Go there. We're going to need a waypoint. Just one in that whole run. That's not bad. So after the drive, we're going to hit this waypoint. And then it's going to loop back down there. And this is going to be bus Chatham. We'll call it bus to train. And if we come in here, we have a vehicle depot. So we'll go to passenger. And we'll get maybe six buses on this train route, and we'll make sure that they have high maintenance. And we'll get them on there to start moving people down to the train. And now that we've got public transportation delivering people on both ends of this train line and a running train, you'll start to see passengers going to the train. You will start to see it. It will take some time. Like, you've got a passenger here on this train. Let's see if he gets off here to get on this train. He did not. But, trust me, you will start to see passengers moving to the train. And now we're going to go ahead and do the exact same thing that we did up with those other cities. We're going to make a block where we can efficiently move people. This block honestly might be too wide. This might be a better road to use. As crazy as that sounds. We're going to go ahead and delete this outside road because this is a tighter... Like, you can see when we come in here with our bus stations, we want them to slightly overlap in the center so that they're both picking up on both sides of this street. I'll go ahead and make that connection. I'll make that connection. And now if we go ahead and add a bus route in here, probably 2 stops on the sides, I would say, would probably be good. 2 stops on the sides. And then where do we want to move this route? This stop. So if we just go ahead and do a quick edit, if we move this bus stop, we do a double bus stop right here. Like that. Actually, I'm gonna do it right here, just so that's not quite on the road. But if I go in here and I delete both of these and then route it through there, and then we want them to come down and go down this side street. So after Grove, they're going to come down and after Grove, really, and that doesn't. So what if I put it here? So after Grove, if I want them to go here, and then at Park Lane, I want them to use Station 2. Yeah. So that's what I want. And now when we add this tram route, I like trams for some reason. When we add this tram route in here, they'll be able to change over onto the other track. Just gonna go ahead and delete that. They'll be able to change over from the tram to the inner city bus going up to Market Bosworth. So now if we go ahead and buy maybe 6 trams, we need to make the tram line first. And this will be tram, Bodmin, we'll call it tram to train. So now, what's going to happen is, you see how this line is all screwed up? When we put these trams onto this line, it fixes itself. It makes itself nice and clean. And now we're going to go in here, we're going to add a passenger station. We're going to add it right, I think we're actually going to line it up right with this street. I think that would look really nice when you go in and kind of look down this main corridor. You know, you see that train station right at the end of the road. I think that's really good looking. And it's mostly flat, mostly. But anyway, now we're going to connect this train on the inside track. We're going to connect this with this inside track up here. And you see that that is a nice curve. It actually tunneled, which I didn't realize it was going to do. But, I mean, I'm okay with that. If that rail is one of those things that if it wants to tunnel, I have no problem with it tunneling. It's one of those things where the speed of the train is the key. It's the key to the whole thing. And if tunneling is what's going to maintain that speed, then I have no problem with that being what it wants to do. Does that make sense? Like, we could have easily, it's not really much of a hill, right? We could have gone up this hill and then down the other side. And the train would have run fine. But that loss of speed that you get, I just want to see if I built a 240. Yeah, I did. That loss of speed that you have to deal with just by going up that slight hill, it doesn't seem like it would be a huge deal. But in the grand scheme of like a long trek, you want to get to top speed and stay there for as long as you can. If that makes sense. You don't want to have to struggle up a hill and then, you know, struggle up the same hill on the way back. It's just not efficient for the train. So now we've got our X in there. I'm gonna go ahead and auto signal. This is a mod, by the way, the auto signal mod. You guys can find the full list of any mods that I'm using down in the comments of the video. It's an awesome mod, because if you didn't have it, you would have to go one by one and signal all the way down this track, and it's just kind of obnoxious. So after Bradley Stoke, we want to go up to Market Bosworth, or up to Boatman, and then back down to Bradley Stoke. And you can see this guy got a little confused. He's still confused. So we'll just send him back the other way. I'm wondering where our other... There he is. Our other passenger train. So now we've got 3 major stops here. And you'll start to see this line is going to start to populate people who are going to want to get onto this train line. And not just people from Boatman, but if you're from Market Bosworth or anything connected by bus, you could catch a bus connection all the way down to this tram, take the tram to the train, and then take the train all the way to Chatham. You know what I mean? Like, the passenger trains are entirely, you know, where it's at, if you want to use that terminology. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to pay off that little loan that I used to start up the, what is this saying? Could not connect all stations. Why? All right, so it can't connect all stations. So generally what that means is something is wrong with the signaling, in my experience. So this signaling looks good. We have a cross right here. It's saying that it can't get up to Boatman. Why not? Terminal 1, not compatible. Why is Terminal 1 not compatible? Interesting. I'm gonna let this run for a minute just so that we can make some money. Ah, there it is. I don't know why it's being difficult, but we're just gonna back that off a little bit. And now when we connect this in, could not connect all stations still. Alright, is something not connected? Oh, that's just a rock. I'm just looking to see if there's a point where my tracks are not connected. And it's entirely possible. I just don't know where. And maybe you caught it when I was laying these tracks down? Interesting. So, I didn't see an issue. I didn't see an issue on the track. So why? This is funny, because the train is running it. So if I eliminate that, let me just try and add it back in. Let me see if it... Okay, yeah. Oh, you know what it was? It was using station number 2. Not station number 1. That's what it was. And I'm going to go ahead and add... Oh, can't afford it. But we're going to start to add a couple more trains onto this passenger line, just because if you look at the line, the frequency is 13 minutes. That's pretty bad. In all honesty, that's pretty bad. But at the same time, it will improve as we add more trains and faster trains. And we'll see if we start getting some passengers lining up at these stops. I'm thinking that it probably is going to take them a little while to get lined up at these stops, just because I fumbled around so much getting that line to actually work. If that makes sense. And then at some point, these trains have gotten kind of out of whack, so we'll probably have to rebalance them at some point, which just involves stopping them and holding them while we kind of spread them to the ideal gap between one another, just so that they're not waiting for each other at stations. And you can see how well these are running now that we've added on these BR, what are they? BR. What are these trains? The BR-75s. BR-75 bads. And I just want to see, how much would it be to swap these all out and maintain the same capacity? So if you look, the capacity is 135. To get up to 135 is going to approximately cost us $9 million. Because we'd have to do it to both trains. So 9 mil to get us up to the same capacity, but be able to operate at a higher speed. And you can see we're starting to get passengers. So we got 6 people that want to take this train up to Bodeman. That's awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and add another train onto that line. And then I'll probably hold this one at this station just for a minute to allow that train to get out ahead of him a little bit. So we're just going to hold him here for a few seconds to allow him to get a little bit. I'll probably wait for him to get to the end of the tunnel, and then I'll send this guy. Actually, I'll send him now. That works. And now we're gonna, that all by itself is going to increase or decrease our frequency down to 8 minutes. That's still pretty high. I mean, once we get into the more high-speed rail stuff, I'm going to be looking for, 120 seconds, roughly, of frequency between stops. And 8 minutes is a lot. Now, if we're looking at a stop like Northam all the way to Sturbridge, that I understand is going to take longer. But for these little regional, like just jumping from one city to another, I really want these stops to be more regular. But we are starting to get some frequency. You can see this line is still hemorrhaging money, as well as the trams. Just because they don't have the capacity. These honestly don't have to be tram lines. They could very easily be bus routes. I just like trams, personally. I just think that they look awesome. And, maybe that's crazy, but I just think that they look really good. And I just noticed an opportunity here that I didn't notice before. We can move brick right here. Right here. There are a lot of places that demand brick and not a ton of... We've got a couple of these. These are from the Industries Expanded mod. They add in a whole suite of other resources, and they just make the game a bit more interesting. So one thing that I was thinking of is we've got this oil sand to fuel and sand refinery right here. So it takes in 2 oil sand and produces 1 fuel and 1 sand. That sand can then be turned into 2 construction materials. 1 sand for 2 construction materials right here. And that would open up a whole nother brick line, which we could then probably, you know, ship up to Yeovil. You know, there are a lot of places that need stuff that it's not directly nearby, which is what makes this game really interesting. Like, this is a good brick line right here. They're so close. But then Sutton is the closest that demands brick. So that might warrant a train line up there, potentially. Ulverston needs brick. Bradley Stoke needs brick. Like, these places need stuff delivered that's not directly adjacent to them, and it makes the game much more interesting than if it were just, you know, a simple everything is right next to each other. And you can see we're starting to get a ton of passengers here. Like, this train could not move all of those passengers. Couldn't do it. What are we seeing at the other stations? 14. Train should be able to move them. And then 10. So it's this Bradley Stoke station that's just got a ton of people wanting to move about, which is great. That's awesome. And if we go to our lines and we sort by our bus routes, you can see we've got a couple bus routes that are completely full. Completely full. Like this Market Bosworth to Droitwich. Yeah, we've got a ton of passengers waiting at both ends. So that probably needs at least 2 more vehicles, if not more. Honestly. That is a ton of passengers wanting to go up to Droitwich. And what you're seeing is that passengers are starting to leave. They're starting to not want to... They're just not staying and waiting for a bus, which is not what we want to see. I'm just going to go through our vehicles real quick and just make sure that I changed out all of those steam vehicles for the new Benz trucks. And it looks like I did, which is good. Now, is this getting enough stone? Absolutely not. It is absolutely not getting enough stone. I'm going to add 4 more of these onto this line. That might seem like a lot. They'll spread out over time. And at some point, I'll probably put a ring road in here. We might even want to set the stages. No, it just doesn't demand it yet. But I'll probably put a ring road in around Market Bosworth because it's kind of a hub. And I'll put a bus interchange up above it. Once we get some more high-speed roads, I'll put a bus interchange up above it and route all the buses so that they're not downtown, and then put a circulator that will go up and connect into it, if that makes sense. That way, just everything's not routing downtown. It's not a huge problem right now. You can see that Market Bosworth does have an emissions issue, and that makes sense, because it's got a freight line running directly through the center of the city. You know what I mean? It's like, it's only natural that would be the case. And you can see, I highly doubt that this train is going to be able to clear this whole boat. Q. Let's see. 5. It got pretty close. It got pretty close. And you can now see that our train is no longer... Oh, wait. Let's see. Yeah, our train is no longer bottom dog. Our passenger train. Oh, now he is again. But it's starting to perform. The lines are starting to establish themselves. And even these trams, which are performing like dogs right now, even they will start to establish themselves at one point. The Chatham bus to train little circulator, that will establish itself over time. Again, the problem with these little routes is you get paid for moving people distance. So a route between, you know, Hornsey and Hayward's Heath is going to get paid a lot more because you're moving people a much further distance. Whereas these little like tram routes, these are purely to get passengers to the train or to this transfer station to get on a bus. So it's to be expected that you will suffer a loss when dealing with routes like these, at least in the short term. Not necessarily that you have to suffer a loss forever, but at least in the short term, it's predictable that you're going to deal with a loss on some of these routes. So I think that this is going to be a good place to end it. I was really hoping to get these rail cars switched out for the higher capacity rail cars, but it doesn't look like we're going to quite get there. I might just go ahead and take out a loan and do it anyway. So if we look right now, these guys are going 31 miles per hour, and they're maxed out. So what did we say? It was going to cost about 9 mil. So we'll borrow 4. And now we're going to go into these. And if we swap these out, and that's because I'm... So, interesting fact, if you do the replace all vehicles and you select the same exact steam engine, it's going to give you a brand new one rather than keep the old one, which is going to make the price be astronomical. The way to get around it is you can go in here and just manually edit each train. The other way is just a little bit faster, and I just wanted to see if we could get away with it. It doesn't look like we can. So I'm going to go ahead in here and just edit it this way. And I'm going to get these 2 train cars, and you can see immediately this guy's going to pick up to a new top speed of 50 miles an hour, which is the top speed of the new tanker cars. So same capacity, but almost double the speed on the line. That's going to be huge. That's going to be huge for this line. But anyway, this has been a good video. We got a lot done that we wanted to do, and I'm really excited to keep going with the series. So if you liked it, feel free to leave a like, leave a comment if you've got suggestions for how to improve, better content, whatever it might be. And feel free to subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And I will catch you in the next video. Have a good day.